This is Atlantic Television Network. Welcome to Global News. First, the highlights. Fubara urges youth to explore opportunities for development. APC Forum condemns moves to drop Shetima. Atiku demands amendment of Electoral Act 2022. Okonjo-Iweala urges Nigeria to target global investors. Trump insists on protection of Christians in Nigeria. Osimhen picks 2 Nigerian players for Galatasaray. Davido's father clears paternity dispute. Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has urged youths in the state to take advantage of the vast opportunities available to become employers of labor and contribute meaningfully to growth and development. Fubara said global trends increasingly favor entrepreneurship and innovation, stressing that youths in Rivers State must not be left behind in harnessing such opportunities. Represented by the Secretary to the State Government, Dr. Benibo Anabraba, the governor stated this while declaring open the 2026 job fair organized by the Rivers State Government in partnership with the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association in Port Harcourt on Thursday. Speaking on the theme, addressing youth employability for prosperity, the governor acknowledged the responsibility of government to to create jobs for its teeming youth population, but noted that it was unrealistic to absorb all job seekers into the civil service, and further urged participants to continually sharpen their skills and explore opportunities within their immediate environment and the global space through digital platforms. He reaffirmed his administration's commitment to sustaining peace and providing an enabling environment for youth to develop their potential and thrive. Chief Judge of Rivers State, Justice Simeon Amadi, has failed to constitute a judicial panel to investigate Governor Siminalayi Fubara, citing an existing court order restraining such action. This is coming after the Rivers State House of Assembly had requested the Chief Judge to set up a 7-member panel to probe Governor Fubara and his deputy, Ngozi Odu, over allegations bordering on gross misconduct, and the development said there was no possibility of the Chief Judge request, as he is bound by a subsisting order of the Rivers State High Court. The court order issued by a High Court sitting in Port Harcourt specifically mentioned the Chief Judge and directed him not to take any action that would contravene the ruling, and he cannot disobey the law. While there is the possibility that the faction of the Assembly led by Speaker Martin Tamehule may appeal the court ruling, as the current order remains binding. Edo State Governor Senator Monday Okpebolo has reiterated his commitment to ensure that no child in the state lacks access to quality education, adding that the state government will ensure the provision of the state-of-the-art facilities and infrastructure, qualified and well-motivated teachers, as well as policies that will take the state into higher education pedestal. He stated this in Benin during the inauguration of the reconstructed Oredo Girls Secondary School, stressing that schools in Edo have become centers of learning and excellence that will produce great men and women to take Edo State and Nigeria to greater height. The principal of the school, Mrs. Adesuwa Owaifo, expressed profound appreciation for the governor's intervention, while the Commissioner for Education, Dr. Padi Iyamu, thanked the governor for the zeal and desire to improve the lives of the people of the state, though his many impactful projects. Meanwhile, the Edo State Ministry of Education, in collaboration with the Edo State Primary Health Care Development Agency and its development partners, World Health Organization, UNICEF, Seawinds Corona Management Systems, GSI, EVAC, have convened a sensitization meeting for education stakeholders at the Ministry of Education Conference Hall, Benin City. The meeting was chaired by Dr. Iyamu, who stressed on the critical importance of the measles rubella vaccine in protecting children against highly contagious and life-threatening diseases. Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma has constituted a 26-member committee to plan activities for the 50th anniversary of the creation of the state. The Commissioner for Information, Public Orientation and Strategy, Mr. Declan Emelumba, who disclosed this in the statements issued on Thursday, said the committee, which will be chaired by the Secretary to the Government of Imo State, Chief Cosmos Iwu, will be formally inaugurated on Friday, January 23rd, at the expanded Executive Council Chambers, Government House, Owerri. The list also includes other stakeholders as well as representatives of the Imo State members of the National Assembly, the Chairman, Forum of former members of the Imo State House of Assembly, Honorable Gochuku Nzekwe, and the State President of the National Council of Women's Societies, Lady Stella Anyacho. Lagos State Government has seized 70 commercial motorcycles during a routine cleanup enforcement across major restricted routes on the island axis of the state. According to an ex-statement on Thursday by the Ministry of Transportation, signed by the Commissioner for Transportation, Oluwaseun Osiyemi, the operation was carried out on Wednesday and began at about 9:30 a.m. The statement said the exercise covered Falamo, On the Bridge, Marina, Coastal Road, Ajah, Roundabout, Ogombo, Ibo Efon, Abraham, Adesanya Junction, and Second Rainbow, adding that the enforcement focused on the highway ban on commercial motorcycles, street trading, illegal parking, unapproved bus stops, and other activities disturbing public safety. Oyo State Police Command has arrested 3 suspected armed robbers in Ibadan, the state capital. Public Relations Officer of the command, Olayinka Ayanlade, who disclosed this in a statement on Thursday, said it also intercepted an unregistered tricycle known as Keke Marua that was used to carry the three suspects. Ayanlade also said one locally fabricated single-barrel gun modified into a short arm suitable for concealment was recovered from the suspects, and the suspects are currently in police custody and will be charged to court as soon as possible. Residents of Itamo community in Igirigiri area of Ado Ekiti, Ekiti State, have raised alarm over their dire infrastructure situation, pleading with the Ado local government chairman Bosun Osaloni and Governor Bayodun Oyebanji to urgently intervene. During a recent New Year prayer gathering, community members lamented the severe hardship caused by poor drainage systems and dilapidated roads, particularly during the rainy season, and the absence of functional drainage led to persistent flooding. Wire roads linking the community from Lubinto Junction and through Embassy Island from Agric or Lope remain in shambolic condition. Speaking on behalf of residents, Messrs. Olagoke Oluwa Tuyi, Henry Abbas, and Madam Veronica Egbejule, all business owners, said heavy rains often prevents them from conducting their daily trades and sometimes trap them in their shops, unable to return home, adding that many businesses have collapsed and families have been forced apart due to the situation. While commending Governor Oyebanji for his numerous developmental projects across Ekiti State, the community appealed for urgent attention to their plight and further suggested that constructing the road through Fehi to Lua community could serve as an alternative route to Ado local government, Afe Babalola University, and the Federal Polytechnic, Ado Ekiti. Deadly attack on a mining site in the Kuru community, Jos South local government area of Plateau State, has left 7 people dead. The senior special assistant to Governor Caleb Mufwang on artisanal mining, Emmanuel Solomon, confirmed the killings in Jos on Thursday, described the incident as rather unfortunate, adding that it follows a string of similar assaults on miners in the council area. He also said gunmen ambushed another group of miners, killing 2 and injuring 1, and when contacted, the Jos South Area Commander of the Nigerian Forest Security Service, Pam Gyang Pajok, denied knowledge of the incident. The spokesman for the Plateau State Police Command, Alabo Alfred, could not be reached on the matter. National Industrial Court NICN in Abuja has issued an order of interlocutory injunction prohibiting the leaders of the Federal Capital Territory Administration (FCTA) workers union, their agents and members from embarking on strikes, picketing, lockouts, road blockades, or any action aimed at shutting down the administration's activities. This ruling comes after workers under the aegis of the Joint Union Action Committee embarked on an indefinite strike over the non-payment of promotion arrears and other entitlements on Monday. In a ruling on Thursday, January 22, 2026, Honorable Justice E.D. Subbilim granted an application filed by the Minister of the FCT and FCTA restraining the union officials from proceeding with the industrial action, while the FCTA's legal team, led by Dr. Ogu J. Onoja, argued that the proposed strike was illegal and would paralyze the administration's operations. Justice Sublim held that the applicants had established a case warranting judicial intervention, and the court consequently issued the injunction, restraining the union and its members from any action that would cripple FCTA activities. And due to the defendant's absence, the court also approved substituted service of the legal documents. It ordered that the originating summons, which challenges the strike's legality, be published in the national newspaper, like the leadership newspaper, and posted at the committee's office at the FCTA Secretariat on Capitol Street, Area 11, Garki, Abuja, and the summons raises fundamental legal questions, challenging whether the strike was called in compliance with the Trade Disputes Act and contesting the legal status of the Joint Unions Action Committee, which is not a registered trade union. The case has been adjourned to Monday, January 26, 2026, for a hearing of the motion on notice. Kaduna State Governor Uba Sani has visited Kolmin Wali village in Kajuru local government area, the site of a recent bandit attack, and promised to secure the release of those kidnapped. He expressed sympathy for the victims and their families, describing the January 18 attack on 3 churches as painful and unacceptable, and assured residents that his government would set up efforts to bring lasting peace to the community. Sani said the state will work closely with the military and other security agencies to ensure all captives are safely returned and to prevent future attacks, and also asked the Minister of Defense, General Christopher Musa, retired, a native of Kaduna, to support the establishment of a military base in the area to improve security. In addition, the governor declared plans to build a road to Kominwali, establish a primary healthcare center, and provide other social services to improve living conditions and strengthen government presence. Kominwali community in southern Kaduna has been thrown into panic following the mass abduction of 177 Christian worshippers, the second attack in a week, and this is coming after gunmen attacked 3 churches in the community and whisked away more than 100 worshippers. However, Kaduna State Government and the Police Command and Chairman of Kajuru Local Government Area dismissed the report as falsehood after Chairman, Northern Chapter of the Christian Association of Nigeria, while Reverend Joseph Hayab confirmed the incident to journalists in Kaduna. Force Public Relations Officer CSP Benjamin Hudain, however, confirmed the abductions late Tuesday on X, saying earlier comments by the Commissioner of Police, Kaduna State CP Muhammad Rabiu, were not deniers of the incident, but a measured response pending confirmation of the details from the field, including the identities and number of those affected. The village head of Kominwali, Ishako Dan Azumi, said the bandits contacted a negotiator on behalf of the Kominwali community and insisted that the missing motorcycles must be returned before the captives could regain their freedom. According to Dan Azumi, the armed men accused members of the Kominwali community of stealing the motorcycles and tampering with others by removing carburetors and spark plugs. Kebbi State Police Command has arraigned a suspected motorcycle robber before a court in Benin, Kebbi, following an alleged armed attack on a commercial motorcyclist in the state capital. The suspect, identified as Shafiu Atiku of Arewa local government area, was arrested after allegedly attacking a commercial rider identified as Jafar and dispossessing him of his Bajaj motorcycle along the bypass road in Benin, Kebbi. The police public relations officer, SP Bashir Osman, confirmed the arrest in a statement on Thursday, describing the incident as a reminder of the risks faced by commercial riders, especially those who operate at night. Osman advised riders to avoid conveying unfamiliar passengers to isolated areas and to remain vigilant during night operations, adding that the command under the leadership of the Commissioner of Police, Omar Mohammed Hadeja, remain committed to safeguarding lives and property across the state. Fire outbreak which gutted sections of Abatua Cemetery in Fajr local government area of Kano State have destroyed several parts of the burial ground before the Kano State Fire Service received a distress call from resident Bashar Hassan, who reported the fire. Firefighters from the agency's headquarters were immediately deployed to the scene, where they found that dry grasses within the cemetery had filled the blaze, causing it to spread rapidly across parts of the premises. Confirming the incident in a statement on Thursday, the public relations officer of the Kano State Fire Services, Saminu Abdullahi, said the fire was successfully brought under control, preventing it from spreading to other areas of the cemetery, and adding that preliminary investigation suggested that human activities had caused the fire. Abdullahi warned members of the public, particularly smokers, against smoking or carrying naked flames within cemetery premises and other areas with dry vegetation, adding that the Kano State Fire Service remains committed to protecting lives and property across the state and urged residents to promptly report fire incidents to the agency. Suspects linked to the killing of a security guard in the Busari local government area of Yobe State, Musa Mohammed, are still at large, while Mohammed's body was discovered in a community river. The State Police Command spokesperson, Dongus Abdul Karim, confirmed the incident. An unidentified assailant confronted Mohammed while he was on duty, tied his hands and legs, and threw him into the river. Mohammed was reportedly rushed to a specialist hospital in Gashoua, where a medical doctor later confirmed his death. It was also revealed that about a month earlier, Mohammed had a disagreement with 5 men from Dadiga village in Busari local government area who allegedly warned him to stop guarding the river face of consequences. North Central All Progressives Congress APC Forum has rejected fresh moves to drop Vice President Kashim Shettima as President Bola Tinubu's running mate in the 2027 election, warning that such a decision would amount to political miscalculation. Indications recently emerged that some elements within the ruling party are pushing for Shettima's replacement as Tinubu's running mate, after the vice president's picture was omitted in a banner bearing images of APC leaders in the Northeast Zone. The banner, which surfaced during the Northeast Zonal public hearing for the amendment of the APC constitution in Maiduguri, only had the pictures of President Bola Tinubu, 5 APC governors in the zone, and the party's national legal advisor. The development has led to renewed debate over the viability of the APC Muslim presidential ticket in 2027 and Shettima's fate. Some APC stakeholders are demanding Shettima's replacement with a Christian from the north in the coming election, while some groups from the North Central is specifically asking that a Christian from the region should be picked as Tinubu's running mate in 2027. However, in a statement on Thursday, the North Central APC Forum warns that replacing Shettima would spell danger and disaster from the party and jeopardize President Bola Tinubu's re-election, adding that the North Central is not interested in the position of vice president as it is eyeing the presidency in 2031 after Tinubu's tenure. Following the legal battle over the suspension of the senator representing Kogi Central, Natasha Akpoti-Oduaghan, has emerged after the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, had decided to drag the matter to the Supreme Court. Court documents cited on Thursday showed that Akpabio filed an application before the Apex Court to regularize and sustain his appeal, challenging decisions of the lower courts on the matter in pursuant to Order 4, Rules 6 and 16 of the Supreme Court 2024 sections and 29 of the Supreme Court Act Cap S15 laws of the Federal Law Section 233, Paragraph 1 and 3 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, and under the inherent jurisdiction, of this Honorable Court. Akpabio is listed as the appellant, while the respondents are Akpoti-Oduaghan, the Clerk of the National Assembly, the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the Chairman of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, Senator Neda Imaseoe. The dispute arose from a February 2025 plenary session during which Akpoti-Oduaghan raised issues of privilege and alleged procedural breaches, and the matter was referred to the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, which later recommended her suspension. Dissatisfied, the lawmaker approached the Federal High Court in Abuja, alleging the breach of her right to a fair hearing and non-compliance with the Senate standing orders, and in its judgment on July 4, the court faulted the suspension, describing it as excessive and unconstitutional, and following proceedings at the Court of Appeal. Akpabio has now taken the case to the Supreme Court, seeking extension of time to apply for leave to appeal on grounds of mixed law and fact, and an order deeming his notice of appeal and brief argument. The former governor argued that the Senate acted within its powers under Section 60 of the 1999 Constitution, which allows the National Assembly to regulate its internal procedures, and following the July 4 judgment, she notified the Senate of her intention to resume, but the request was initially rejected. Ahead of next month's national convention of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC, concerned stakeholders of the party have called for the retention of the party's existing zoning formula, adding that the retention is a critical stabilizing the political mechanism necessary for unity, inclusiveness, and internal harmony with the ruling party. In the current formula, the office of the national chairman is zoned to the north central, while that of national secretary is zoned to southwest, while some elements in the party want the chairmanship taken to the northwest and the secretary taken to the southeast. However, convener of the concerned APC Stakeholders Forum, Dr. Dominic Alancha, who spoke on Thursday in Abuja after an emergency meeting of the stakeholders, said the forum considered it patriotic and timely to clearly state its stance on issues capable of fostering stability, unity, and seamless electoral success for the APC. As preparation for the National Convention gather momentum, he therefore urged the National Executive Committee, NEC, President Bola Tinubu, party elders, and other stakeholders to uphold the existing zoning arrangement in the interest of unity, equity, and justice, while also calling for micro-zoning within geopolitical zones to strengthen the party at state levels. The forum also threw its weight behind the continuation of the current national leadership of the party by endorsing Professor Nentawi Yuwata to remain as APC national chairman, while the party has recorded notable stability under Yuwata's leadership, including progress in internal reconciliation, improved party administration, membership drive, and strategic repositioning ahead of future elections. Former presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, has identified missing gaps in the Electoral Act 2022 as a major setback to the credibility of the 2023 general elections, adding that the gaps in the law enabled widespread rigging and made it nearly impossible, for petitioners to successfully prosecute their cases in court. According to a post via his verified X handle on Thursday, Atiku said correcting the flaws observed during the 2023 polls requires an urgent review of the legal framework guiding elections in Nigeria, beginning with amendments to the Electoral Act, stressing that the failure to address the shortcomings of the 2022 Act would jeopardize the credibility of the 2027 general elections and future polls. However, the former vice president expressed concern that the Senate appears unwilling to expedite the passage of the proposed amendments to the Act, warning that such delays could undermine public confidence in the electoral process, describing it as an indictment of the Senate and a call for greater legislative responsibility. He also said it is imperative for the National Assembly to finalize the amendments and ensure that an updated Electoral Act governs the conduct of the 2027 elections. About 5,000 individuals suspected of involvement in terrorism-related activities are currently being held in pretrial detention facilities across the country, and the large number of detainees have created a significant backlog of terrorism cases. A statement in the 25 to 2030 strategic plan of the National Counter-Terrorism Center and working with the Defense Headquarters and the Federal Ministry of Justice reviewed the files to fast-track prosecutions or dismiss cases lacking sufficient evidence. According to him, the support provided through the framework led to the prosecution of 393 terrorism-related cases, resulting in 229 convictions, while charges were filed against 1,200 detainees for trial, release, and resettlement into their communities. Also, according to the documents, Nigeria is set to introduce DNA profiling into a proposed national database on terrorism as part of renewed efforts to strengthen innovations, prosecutions, and intelligence sharing on terrorist groups. Federal government has opened its case against activist and publisher Omoyele Sowore over alleged cyberbullying and cyberbullying of President Bola Tinubu, with the Department of State Services operative testifying before the Federal High Court in Abuja. Soware's standing trial in a suit before Justice Mohammed Omar following a post he allegedly made on social media in August 2025 and led in evidence by the prosecution counsel Akinlolu Kehinde, senior advocate of Nigeria. The first prosecution witness, Cyril Nosike, told the court that he is a DSS operative attached to the agency's cyberspace monitoring center. Nosike said his responsibility includes monitoring online activities and hours a day, and told the courts that on August 26, he monitored posts allegedly made by Sowore on his X and Facebook accounts, and he downloaded the video containing the post and saved it on a flash drive alongside a certificate of compliance. The flash drive was admitted in evidence and marked exhibit, while the certificate of compliance admitted an exhibit B, and the video was subsequently played in open court. During the proceedings, the defense counsel, Marshal Abubakar, rejected to the prosecution's line of questioning, describing it as leading, while Justice Umar upheld the objection and directed the prosecution to ensure that the questions followed the natural flow of the witness's testimony. Justice Umar adjourned the case till January 27, 2026 for cross-examination and continuation of the trial. This is coming after Sowore was rearraigned on amended cyberbullying charges after the federal government dropped charges against Meta and X, limiting the case to allegations arising from his social media post on President Tinubu. Supreme Court has dismissed the trial of Major Hamza Al-Mustafa, retired, the former Chief Security Officer, CSO, to the late military head of state, General Sani Abacha, in murder of late politician Alhaji Kudirat Abiola. Kudirat Abiola was the wife of the late businessman, come politicians, Chief MKO Abiola, the returned the presumed winner of the June 12, 1993 presidential election that was annulled by former President Ibrahim Babangida. Mrs. Kudirat Abiola was, however, murdered in Lagos. In the nationwide crisis that followed the annulment, and in the course of her persistent struggle to get the annulments reversed by the military and the trial of A.I. Mustafa on the murder of charges brought against him, the Lagos state government was, however, put to rest on a Thursday by a 5 p.m. man panel of justices of the Supreme Court, headed by Justice Owani Abba Aji. At the proceedings where the Lagos state was slated to reopen the trial, no legal representation was made, while no process was made since 2014. When the matter was called, Paul Dauda, a senior advocate of Nigeria, stood for Al-Mustafa and informed the justices that Lagos has not taken any step to implement the order granted it in 2014 to reopen the trial, adding that not even a notice of appeal was filed by Lagos as the appellant to demonstrate its seriousness to prosecute the trial. We'll go on a short break now, and when we return, we will continue with the rest of the stories. Please stay with us. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now to the rest of our stories. Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Polytechnics has rejected the reviewed schemes of service for Nigerian polytechnics prepared by the National Board for Technical Education at a stakeholders meeting held recently in Abuja. The national president of the union, Philip Ogunsipe, said in a statement released on Thursday that the union's rejection of the reviewed schemes of service was contained in the minority report submitted to the Minister of Education, Dr. Muru Falausa, adding that it rejected the revised scheme because it introduced sharp disparities between teaching and non-teaching staff at the entry point of employment. He also said the new scheme would deny non-teaching staff career progression as it prevents staff with first degrees from advancing to Contedis 15, which is equivalent to grade level 17, and further faulted comments credited to the chairman of the Committee of Heads of Polytechnics and Colleges of Technology of Nigeria, who reportedly said that rectors and a section of non-teaching staff could not retire on the same grade levels. Ogunsipe described the statement as disparaging, elitist, discriminatory, and contradictory to public service rules, adding that with the submission of the minority reports, the association had passed a vote of no confidence in the ability of the NBTE to provide a fair, balanced, and acceptable scheme of service for polytechnics in Nigeria, citing what he described as persistent bias and disregard for extant public service regulations. The association appealed to the Minister of Education to examine the protest letter objectively in the interest of equity, industrial harmony, and strict adherence to established public service norms, and stressed on strong belief in the minister's leadership ability, describing him as a public servant. To our business news, Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, says Nigeria must deliberately target global investors and supply chain relocation to drive job creation, deepen manufacturing, and reduce import dependence. She made the remarks in a short clip posted by Glazier on its X handle from a discussion titled From Scale to Capital, Financing Nigeria's Role as Africa's Digital Trade and Infrastructure Anchor, held at Nigeria House during the ongoing World Economic Forum in Davos. This is coming after rising geopolitical tensions, particularly between the United States and China, have accelerated supply chain diversification. Firms are increasingly adopting China plus one sourcing strategies to reduce single country risk, although China remains deeply embedded in many global value chains. Okonjo-Iweala said the disruptions present an opportunity for Nigeria to capture a share of global supply chains, but stressed that this would require aggressive marketing of the country to prospective investors, and also highlighted opportunities in the pharmaceutical sector. Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission has commenced enforcement of sanctions against digital money lending operators that fail to regularize their operations in line with the digital, electronic, online, and non-traditional consumer lending regulations 2025. The compliance deadline for affected operators expired on Monday, January 5, 2026, while the statement of the Director for Corporate Affairs and at the FCCPC, Ondaje Ijago, said the enforcement exercise was aimed at ensuring regulatory certainty and restoring confidence in Nigeria's fast-growing digital lending market. Speaking on the development, the Executive Vice Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the Commission, Tunji Bello, said the measures were necessary to give full effect to the new regulations and to protect consumers from abusive practices, stressing that the objective is to promote discipline, transparency, and consumer confidence within the digital lending space, not to disrupt legitimate business activity, Bello said. The Commission has also commenced structured engagements with relevant application hosting platforms and payment service providers consistent with its statutory functions as part of ongoing enforcement and compliance monitoring activities. The Commission reaffirmed its commitment to transparent regulation, fair competition, and effective consumer protection across Nigeria's digital economy and further reiterated its commitment to transparent regulation, fair competition, and effective consumer protection across Nigeria's digital economy. Central Bank of Nigeria has conducted its second Treasury bills auction for January 2026 on offering instruments worth 1.5 trillion naira as strong liquidity in the banking system collides with rising borrowing needs and cautious interest rate expectations. The auction would span the three standard maturities of 91 days, 182 days, and 300, continuing the Apex Bank's heavy reliance on short-term domestic instruments to fund government operations and manage liquidity, while market participants said the outcome would be closely watched for signals on the direction of short-term interest rates, especially amid mixed inflation trends and sustained monetary tightening. Dealers say the structure reflects persistent investor preference for longer-dated securities that provide relatively higher yields in an uncertain rate environment, adding that the dominance of the 364-day bills shows both the government's funding strategy and investors' desire to lock in returns, given uncertainty over inflation sustainability and future policy direction. The bank had also raised rates at earlier auctions, even as headline inflation eased in November, signaling caution over the durability of the disinflation trend and the need to support exchange rate stability. Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise has urged the government and policymakers to prioritize health interventions over imposing additional taxes on sugar-sweetened beverages, warned that sugar tax would undermine Nigeria's manufacturing and employment base. A statement by Chief Executive Officer of Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, Dr. Muda Yusuf, argued that evidence showed sugar taxes delivered limited benefits unless combined with broader lifestyle and behavioral interventions and unidentified poor diet quality, physical inactivity, sedentary lifestyles, urban design, and genetic factors as the primary drivers of diabetes and related diseases in Nigeria. Dr. Muda Yusuf decried the recent calls to impose additional taxes on sugar-sweetened non-alcoholic beverages in Nigeria, describing the proposal as misplaced, economically risky, and weakly supported by empirical evidence, adding that sugar taxation failed to reflect Nigeria's prevailing structural, social, and macroeconomic realities, especially in an economy battling high inflation, weak purchasing power, and fragile industrial recovery. They also said the food and beverage sector remained the backbone of Nigeria's manufacturing industry, after the sector contributed about 40% of total manufacturing output, with the non-alcoholic beverages subsector playing a key role in industrial growth, employment, and value creation. Yusuf said the burdens were compounded by high energy and logistics costs, exchange rate volatility, and elevated interest rates, leading to rising production costs and higher consumer prices. And now to our international news. United States says Nigeria must do more to protect Christians following a mass kidnapping across several churches in Kaduna State following a high-level security meeting in Abuja, while a senior State Department official leading the U.S. delegation did not accuse Muslim victims of violence in the country. The remarks come as Abuja has been under diplomatic pressure by Washington over violence that U.S. President Donald Trump says the crime against Christians amounts to genocide and persecution, but Hooker's focus on Christian victims shows Abuja will have to continue to grapple with Washington's agenda as the two countries advance security operation following joint strikes on militants late last year when bandit gangs raid villages and conduct kidnappings for ransom across the northwest, while a jihadist insurgency in the northeast has raged since 2009, killing both Christians and Muslims. The center of the country sees clashes between mostly Christian farmers and Muslim Fulani herders, though researchers say the conflict flares over dwindling resources rather than religion. But Nigeria came under U.S. pressure late last year after a brazen kidnapping of St. Mary's Catholic School in Niger State saw more than 250 students abducted, and Hooker said all the victims of the St. Mary's kidnapping were Christians. U.S. President Donald Trump kicked off his new Board of Peace at Davos with a signing ceremony for a body with a $1 billion membership fee and the controversial list of invitees. A group of leaders and senior officials from 19 countries, including Trump allies from Argentina and Hungary, gathered on stage with Trump to put their names to the founding charter of the body, originally meant to oversee peace in Gaza after the war between Hamas and Israel. The board's charter envisions a wider role in resolving international conflicts, sparkling concerns that Trump wants it to rival the United Nations. The Board of Peace's potential membership has, however, proved controversial, with Trump having invited Russian President Vladimir Putin, who invaded Ukraine 4 years ago, and Putin had agreed to join, while the Russian leader said he is still studying the invite. Officials from Bahrain, Morocco, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Bulgaria, Indonesia, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, the United Arab Emirates, Uzbekistan, and Mongolia also signed the documents with Trump. Venezuela's interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, will soon visit the United States, as senior U.S. official said, to further beckon President Donald Trump's willingness to embrace the oil-rich country's new leader. She would be the first sitting Venezuelan president to visit the United States in more than a quarter century, aside from presidents attending United Nations meeting in New York. The invitation reflects a head-snapping shift in relations between Washington and Caracas since U.S. Delta Force operatives swooped into Caracas, seized President Nicolas Maduro, and spirited him into a U.S. jail to force narco-trafficking charges. Rodriguez was a former vice president and longtime insider in Venezuela's authoritarian and anti-American government before changing tack as interim president. Since then, successive Venezuelan governments have made a point of tumbling their nose at Washington and building close ties with U.S. foes in China, Cuba, Iran, and Russia. The U.S. trip, which is yet to be confirmed by Venezuelan authorities, could pose problems for Rodriguez inside the government, where some hardliners still detest what they see as Washington's hemispheric imperialism. Trump has so far appeared happy to allow Rodriguez and much of the repressive government to remain in power, so long as the United States has access to Venezuelan oil, the largest proven reserves in the world. And this comes after Trump hosted Venezuela's exiled opposition leader and Nobel Peace Laureate this month. 2 people are feared dead and several others missing after landslides in New Zealand's North Island, and rescue workers are still searching through rubble at a different site in a popular campground on Mount Maunganui. The landslides were triggered by heavy rains over the last few days, which led to flood and power outages across the North Island. One minister said the East Coast resembled a war zone. Footage from the campsite on Mount Maunganui, a nesting volcano, shows a huge seep near the base of the volcano drone as rescuers and sniper dogs come through crushed caravans and flattened tents. The extinct volcano is a sacred Moroe site and one of the most popular campgrounds in New Zealand, with a local holiday website describing it as a slice of paradise, where it has been repeatedly hit by landslides in recent years. A state of emergency has been declared in the Bay of Plenty, where Mount Maunganui sits, and various parts of the North Island, including Northland, Coromandel, and Hauraki. And to our sports news. Osimhen picks two Nigerian players for Galatasaray. Galatasaray striker Victor Osimhen has named the two Nigerian players he spoke with to join the Turkish Super League champions and the ongoing January transfer window. Osimhen wants his Super Eagles teammates Ademola Lookman and Rafael Onyedika to consider making the move to Galatasaray this year amid ongoing January transfer window. Onyedika currently plays his club football for Club Brugge, while Lookman plays for Atlanta. Dr. Deji Adeleke, father of Afrobeat star David Adeleke, popularly known as Davido, has revealed that DNA test confirms his son is not the father of a girl, Anu, who had been at the center of a controversial paternity dispute. Adeleke made this known while addressing journalists at his Lagos home, adding that the girl is not his son's child, as proven by DNA tests conducted at multiple Lagos hospitals. The businessman said he first learned about the case in 2014 when he received a letter from a lawyer in Ibadan alleging that Davido had impregnated a woman, Ayo Labinjo, and abandoned the child. Adeleke, who is a grandfather of 14, also said he welcomes grandchildren, stressing that science must guard the confirmation of paternity, which included a picture of the child, Davido, and the mother, also containing the child's birth certificate. Adeleke said 3 DNA tests were conducted for Davido, but 2 came out negative, while the third sample was declared contaminated, and to also rule out mistaken identity with Davido's cousin, Adebayo Adeleke, known as B-Red. 2 tests were also conducted for him, which also proved negative. And that's the global news for tonight. Before we go, another look at the major stories. Fubara urges youth to explore opportunities for development. APC Forum condemns moves to drop Shetima. Atiku demand amendments of Electoral Act 2022. Okonjo-Iweala urges Nigeria to target global investors. Trump insists on protection of Christians in Nigeria. Osimhen picks 2 Nigerian players for Galatasaray. Davido's father clears paternity dispute. I am Francis Neka. Thank you for watching. You can follow us on our social media platforms on X, formerly Twitter, at Atlantic TV Net, Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, on Instagram at Atlantic TV Network, or just live on our website, atlanticnetwork.tv. Remember, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching.